TS2 LOS 230 set 43.
I stuck them up all the way and it's going good.
What time you got?
So turn the TV loud?
Range tracker, Cape Flight. Cape Flight, range tracker, driving fast.
We've had a report from our correspondent on the Kearsarge in the target area that the weather there has improved somewhat. There's still a high cloud cover which could possibly impede a search, but the waves are not too high, 3 to 6 feet. There are now 16 knot winds, though, and a lower cloud cover, 2,500 feet with 5% clouds, with 8/10, 80% clouds at around 5,000 feet. 85 Navy planes already have taken off from the Kearsarge and have begun the radar search for the capsule, now approaching a point where its parachute will be ejected. The ejection of the parachute should come in about 10 seconds.
Voice contact with astronaut Gordon Cooper was established at 17 minutes after the hour from our tracking station in Hawaii. Astronaut Scott Carpenter, the Capcom on Hawaii, is now briefing Gordon Cooper on the weather. I think it's interesting to note that Scotty Carpenter asked Gordon Cooper how he was doing, and the answer was, doing fine. He was also asked whether his altimeter was off the peg. You see, our altimeter only measures altitude up to 100,000 feet. And the answer was, yes, it's off the peg. This means that Fate 7, with Gordon Cooper on board, is now beneath 100,000 feet, and we have just received a bulletin that the drogue parachute has deployed. The drogue parachute has deployed.
And Gordon Cooper is back safely from outer space, the longest flight any American has ever made, some 34 hours and 20 minutes in space, and he's coming down safely. The chute has deployed. Still is a question, of course, as to the exact target area in which he'll land, but so far he has brought that space capsule back so perfectly that perhaps he will drop it as close to the Kearsarge as did Wally Schirra in the last flight.
Astronaut Gordon Cooper has reported the deployment of his drogue parachute at 40,000 feet. He is now being briefed by Scotty Carpenter from Hawaii on the rest of his checklist and procedure. We will be standing by for a report from Gordon Cooper that his main parachute has been deployed shortly. This is Mercury Control standing by and monitoring the conversation between Scotty Carpenter and Gordon Cooper.
We should have word any second that his main parachute, the big job that lowers him slowly into the water, has deployed. And then there are about, after that, 4 more minutes left until splashdown.
Confirmed to Scotty Carpenter that his attitude control system fuel has been dumped. That is the residual fuel. And this is a normal procedure. Gordon Cooper has just reported he has a good main chute. The main parachute has deployed. The main parachute on Fate 7 has deployed, confirmed by Gordon Cooper. He confirms that his landing impact bag has been deployed. Everything on this re-entry and landing is going just like clockwork.
And we have just heard from Joe Campbell on the Kearsarge that he is in sight of the Kearsarge with the naked eye off the port side of the ship. He's right on target.
He is beneath 10,000 feet, coming down toward the sea.
And now we're going to switch over to Joe Campbell on the USS Kearsarge.
Just off to my left, right directly ahead of the ship, you can see the orange chute coming down. It's gently falling. It's already entered through the clouds. Sailors are everywhere with astronaut Gordon Cooper is on his way down. Now we can see the capsule hanging under the chute. It's a beautiful sight as everybody dashes to areas where they can get a good picture. We expect it's going to take a few minutes now before he falls down in real close view. The choppers have gone out to the area of impact. I can see 1, 2, 3 helicopters. 1, 2, and 3 are out in the area. They're getting ready to pick up the capsule if necessary, or rather the astronaut if necessary. That'll be helicopters 1, 2, and 3. The lead position is flown by Commander R. Starr, and the co-pilot is Lieutenant J.G. Joseph Montanaro. They're out in the lead position. They have aboard Dr. Robert D. Bollinger. He's a captain in the Army. He will go down to Gordo if he needs assistance. And from all indications, it looks as though he will not need any help at all from the beauty of this shot.
The pictures you're seeing of the Kearsarge operating out in the Pacific were pictures taken during an earlier practice run for this landing.
Piloted by Lieutenant Commander Emilio P. Massa, the co-pilot, Lieutenant George Dubois. Now this one has aboard a runner-up diver team in the event that they have to lend assistance to the first one. The first group of underwater demolition teams is headed up by Ronnie Salan. He's from Coronado, California. All the excitement here is something fierce. We have 3 helicopters, a standby one, number 53, flown by Lieutenant J.G. Gene Fogarty. He's from Morristown, Pennsylvania. The co-pilot is Lieutenant J.G. Earl Rogers II. He's from Orlando, Florida. The choppers are moving around. He'll always have voice communication with Gordo, so it looks as though in just a few moments now it's going to be impact, splash. We can still see very clearly the capsule swinging gently underneath the chute. The helicopters are directly underneath. Now the ship is swinging. We're heading toward the impact area. More and more the ship is swinging around to where it's going to be dead ahead. Right now it's off the port bow just a degree or so. I see about 358 degrees. We're swinging. Now the ship is heading directly for the point of impact. It's just a few hundred feet, it appears to be, from this point, off the water. The crew is dashing to the various sides of the ship to take a good look. Astronaut reports he's in fine shape. Just as we predicted a moment ago, it looks as though he's going to need little, if any, help. Now, here it comes. There's the splash. The chute breaking off to the side. The choppers are swinging around, and obviously this is a because apparently we're going to swing right by and pick up the capsule in just a little bit. So I'm moving over and going to the starboard side of the ship, which is just as full of spectators and sailors as the port side has been. It's a good thing this is a big ship, because with the rushing sailors and officers and spectators lined up on one side, you'd think it would capsize. But of course it's a big ship, and that's not about to happen. We're now heading towards the capsule, which is in the water. We can see the helicopters swinging down real close. Apparently in just a few moments, divers from the number 1 helicopter will jump in the water, maybe 15, 20 feet, and they'll begin attaching the flotation collar. One is swinging down very, very close now to the water. We can't see, of course, from this distance which chopper it is, but I feel pretty sure it's the number 1 helicopter, because that's the one whose business it is to drop divers, and also the doctor who's riding along, if his services should be called upon. But the word from Gordo in the capsule to the chopper pilots who are above is that he's feeling fine, and the guys here on the ship are all saying that this is a better shot than last time, and that's pretty hard to take when you consider the last one was nearly perfect. This one, I don't know the distance yet. In just a moment, I expect someone will tell us what the exact distance was that Gordo came down within the Kearsarge ballpark. Now the choppers are throwing up water on both sides. It was approximately 2 miles, which is cutting the old distance in half. Now you can see the spray coming up from the water as the choppers let down real close. Now that 2-mile approximation was by radar. The radar boys tell me it was 2 miles off to the port bow. When he first broke through the clouds, there was a mighty cheer went up. A few moments before then, we had heard the boom, and everyone says that means he's coming. They had heard it before, and they're all just cheering, and they've got quite a few types of laughs going on. One fellow saying, wee-hee! He's telling his feelings in a laugh. Now the choppers are spreading out. One is remaining right above the spot. Apparently, that's where I see a smoke marker now off to our starboard bow. I'd say about 20 degrees. We're heading in that direction. Not as fast as I might have thought we would be heading in that direction, but we're gradually closing the distance. It's now about 8,800 yards, I'm told, to the spot where Gordo is sitting in the capsule. And as he said, feeling fine. Helo number 1 has already let go of the divers. They're attaching the flotation collar right now. In a moment, we should get a better view from where we are. The sun is shining brilliantly out here. There are some scattered clouds, but it didn't, as we predicted, and as the meteorologist told us earlier, it wouldn't interfere with recovery in the slightest. This is a great testimony to the technology of all the thousands of people involved, from Cape Canaveral, the various industries that go to make up this work in MA9. Much better than the last one. Now we see a plane coming in. Apparently it's one of the ship's own planes. One of the Sky Raiders took off just a little while ago. It's now returning. I don't know whether they're going to bring him aboard or not. I doubt it. He's probably going to stay around in the area. The smoke signal is getting closer now from the spot where the capsule is located. The ship is closing the distance. In a moment, we'll get you an exact distance on where we are. The haze is the smoke from the capsule, of course, as we pointed out a moment ago, the smoke marker. Charlie, would you find out just what the distance is right about now? I'm a poor judge of distance. I would say it's closing down to possibly 6,000 or 7,000 yards, no more, surely. We're looking off now. We're making a circle coming in on the smoke marker. The choppers are circling the area. We have 3 helicopters out there. One's remaining off. The astronaut had just passed the word to the helicopter crews. He wants to be picked up by the boat crane at number 3 elevator. This means, according to the NASA doctors, that one very important part of this flight will be checked out very thoroughly. That is, that when the capsule is brought aboard the elevator, Trooper will be given various tests, such as his blood pressure and so on, while inside the capsule. Then he'll move out onto the deck of the ship, and an extension cord will be attached to his suit, which leads inside to the various instruments, which will also record a second reading of such things as pulse rate and heartbeat and blood pressure and so on. We're about 5,000 yards from the smoke marker now. It looks like a beautiful recovery. We're all hoping that no hitch develops at this stage of the game. We couldn't take it. I can see the capsule now bobbing within the area of the smoke marker. The ship is coming around in a gentle circle. There's no speed now involved in our approach. We're taking our time. Captain Rankin is very anxious that the mighty K will come off with a second recovery effort just as successful as the Giraffe flight. The choppers are moving back towards the smoke marker. Now we're down to 3,700 yards. We're getting closer to that smoke marker. I can see the capsule very clearly in the water. and the choppers are moving around in various directions. I wish I could tell you what they're doing, but I'm sure they know what they're doing. The divers are in the water. In a moment, we're going to be bringing the capsule aboard the number 3 elevator. The crane will swing out, we'll pick them up, and that'll be recovery number 2 for the Mighty K. A message is being written out, I assume, for me. We are coming the downwind side. That's the way they did it last time, to keep the wind from interfering with the capsule, which is reasonably helpless now as it sits out there in the water and bobs like a cork. The ship is lifting to starboard due to all the sailors and spectators, so I was right. I did say earlier that it was too big a ship for this to happen, but I wondered why we had this slight starboard lift, and it's true, we are lifting because all the sailors have run over to the starboard side for a better view, and of course you can see cameras by the hundreds, perhaps even thousands. Would you say there are thousands of cameras out here? Some fellows are wearing 2 and 3. So all the folks back home will have beautiful shots taken aboard the Mighty K when they recovered astronaut Gordon Cooper. Helicopter number 1 is hovering almost directly overhead the capsule. That's piloted by Commander Mark Starr, who headed up the helicopter group. He's the commanding officer of the Hezron 6. Is this true? He's not, huh?
These are pictures taken of a practice mission of the Kearsarge recovering a capsule at sea. It'll give you some idea of what Joe Campbell is telling us is going on out there right now.
The helicopter squadron captain. The officer who heads up this helicopter squadron. This is the new FH-3A jet helicopter of the type the President uses. It has a boat configuration so that if it should have to come down into the water, they can keep their rotors going and remain afloat. The group is commanded by Commander Ralph R. Riley of Andalusia, Alabama. So his group is out here, Hezron 6. They're doing a good job. They're gently circling the area. We're now coming on the upwind side to create a situation that would be better for the astronauts. You can see the green dye now. The green dye marker is visible, whereas only a little while ago we could see the smoke. Now we're swinging around again, making a wide arc. Apparently we're coming in directly. We're going to put a boat out in the water. We are going to put a boat out in just a little bit. This will be a boat crew. May as well tell you some of the fellas in that boat crew while we're waiting and circling the capsule out there in the water.
We've been advised by Colonel Powers back here at Cape Canaveral that Gordon Cooper has asked Captain Rankin on the Kearsarge in best military fashion for permission to come aboard, and he's apologized for missing the number 3 elevator. He missed it by 2 miles, the closest anybody's come to hitting target yet.
Quebec, Tennessee, Engineer Billy D. Francisco, he's from Cleveland, Colorado. Third class from Atlanta, Georgia, and then Rayburn Weaver, Caution is aboard. He's from Montgomery, Alabama. So this boat crew will be getting into the water here very shortly. Now you can see a large area of the green dye marker. It's beautiful out here. No wind to bother to any degree at all. The sun is shining brightly. You can see the smoke marker swinging up from the green dye. It's a strange sight if you've never seen it before. All eyes are pinned on that area so that we're going to see everything we can possibly see. The gooney birds are flying around in gentle arc, looking as though they too were waiting for the capsule to land, and they've been waiting all along. We're holding right now there goes the red marker, the red smoke marker. It's about 3,400 yards off on our starboard, just about the beam. We're swinging around. There's the red marker, the smoke coming up. You can see the yellow of the flotation color around the capsule. The helicopter is hovering over top. We're still swinging getting ready to launch the boat. No indication yet that we're launching it. But we're getting very much closer before we launch it. I understand that's the word. But it's a beautiful sight to look out there and see this indigo Pacific. Just a touch of white caps here and there, the albatross circling around, and down below the helicopters we see this beautiful capsule with a flotation gear attached, and we're seeing various color dyes come off now and then. But Gordon says everything is fine. We're just circling around. It may take a little bit, but we're going to take every care, as I understand it, to make sure that no hits develop during this somewhat delicate recovery operation. Nobody wants anything to go wrong at this stage of the game. It's been going too well before. I'm sure it must have been a thrill to Herb Caplow when he was out here in the Pacific before to see this fight that I'm now witnessing for the first time. When we were picking up Scott Carpenter, he was some 200 miles away from us. This is the first time that I have had the pleasure of reporting a capsule in the water from a successful flight, especially one with such a long duration.
Back here at Cape Canaveral, there has been some suggestion from the space surgeons that perhaps when Gordon Cooper arrives back aboard the Kearsarge, he may need some assistance in getting out of that capsule. And I think that that's true of anybody, no matter whether he's a 36-year-old astronaut in the best of physical condition, as this young Air Force Major Gordon Cooper is, or some of us slightly older folks. If we had spent 34 hours, and it's more than that because he was in the capsule for 2 hours and a half before blastoff, some 37 hours altogether, he's been in that one reclining position. And quite obviously, that doesn't do anyone any good. It's going to take him a little while, perhaps, to straighten up and get moving around again, like it would with any of us. There are also the tests to be run in the capsule by the medical team aboard the Kearsarge regarding blood pressure, and that question that they want very definitely to check on, the pooling of blood in his legs, whether he suffered this same phenomenon as did Schirra, who spent a great deal less time in space, some 6 orbits, as you know, 9.5 hours. From Shorty Powers and Mercury Control, we're told that the Kearsarge is even now preparing to throw a line to the capsule, and we'll be going back to Joe Campbell for more details over there just as soon as they begin to come in on the actual recovery of the capsule itself. One of the principal purposes of this recovery of this whole MA-9 flight of Fate 7 was to test the biological effects of long periods of weightlessness. Although the Russians have put up Nikolaev and Popovich for 4 days and 3 days respectively, and have more experience of weightlessness than we, they're not sharing all the information with us that is necessary for us to find out for ourselves. Now, this excellent test pilot who conducted an almost perfect flight, despite some very disappointing failures in his system in the last 4 hours, in the capsule system, that is, in the electrical system, and some problems that gave us all a few moments of concern, a total of about 4 hours of concern, we should say. He has conducted an absolutely perfect flight, and now the question will be testing his physical reaction, and that will take some hours aboard the Kearsarge. As a matter of fact, a total of 48 hours has been put aside for him to go through these biological tests on the Kearsarge and to rest up. He'll be taken from the Kearsarge in 2 days to Honolulu, where he plans a reunion and about 7 or 8 hours there with his wife Trudy and their 2 daughters, Kamala, 14, and Janita, 12. They're flying out from Houston, Texas. They're home at noon tomorrow to meet him in Honolulu 2 days from now. He'll turn around and fly Saturday night from Honolulu, arriving back here at Cape Canaveral Sunday morning for a big Cocoa Beach and spaceport reception and a news conference. Let's go back to Joe Campbell now at the Kearsarge to pick up the activity there.
16 yards. It doesn't seem that distance, but it is out here. So your eyes make on you in the Pacific, as I learned a long time ago. But it's very clearly visible. The yellow flotation gear around the capsule. The swells are not too much. They tell me in the meteorology office, where the commander and manager works, that the swells are running about 4 to 6 feet. Very gentle for this time of action.
Our signal from the Kearsarge is beginning to fade. Let's hope that we get it back before they actually lift that capsule aboard. We would certainly hate at this time to miss Joe Campbell's graphic description of the return of Gordon Cooper to his folks on the Kearsarge. What a tremendous flight this has been of this 36-year-old Air Force major from Shawnee, Oklahoma, a boy who served a while as an enlistee in the United States Marines and even served on the Presidential Honor Guard in Washington, D.C. with the Marines before getting a commission in the Army, transferring to the Air Force, finding test pilot work to his preference and staying in that work until he was picked as one of the 7 most likely candidates from all the test pilots, all the jet pilots in the United States for this first astronaut program. 4 years ago that selection came, and he waited a long time for this flight. But whatever it cost in the waiting, in the drain on his good humor, he never showed it, certainly. And not only has his flight been the most perfect of all those to date, if one can say something is most perfect, this one is. Wally Schirra's flight had been called the textbook flight because it seemed to be absolutely according to the book. But Wally Schirra himself said even before this amazing landing that Gordon Cooper has made, that a new textbook has been written today. Gordon Cooper, by staying aloft 34 hours and 20 minutes, has set a new American record in space, and only the Russian space twins Nikolaev and Popovich have exceeded his time in space. And we've now put up more men than they have. We've had 6 men make rides into space to their 4. This space exploit putting America back in the space race, certainly. We have some details on his schedule, incidentally, given up by Colonel Powers just a moment ago. You're looking at some films filmed during the practice sessions for this recovery of the divers who are dropped by helicopter around the capsule, who place a flotation ring immediately around the capsule to keep it afloat in case the water should be shipped aboard. This is a procedure decided upon and developed after the loss of Gus Grissom's capsule, the Liberty Bell 7, the second of our flights into space, a suborbital flight 300 miles downrange, the only capsule that has been lost because by some mischance the capsule hatch blew off with the explosive charges provided for the purpose for emergency egress from the capsule, but it accidentally went while the capsule was still tilting in the water. The capsule shipped a lot of water and went down, and the helicopter just barely rescued Gus Grissom. This hasn't happened today. The flotation ring has been successfully attached. The Kearsarge is approaching the capsule. It's put us over its boats that will actually pull the capsule alongside where the big cranes can pick up the capsule, which now weighs about a ton, a little over a ton. It went aloft weighing almost 2 tons, but the use of consumables in space, the jettisoning of the retro rockets and other parts of the package, the deployment of the parachutes, has brought its weight down to just slightly over a ton as it rests in the water now. Gordon Cooper, in case you are one of the, perhaps the only ones in the country who just tuned in, is in perfectly fine condition, according to the reports from Cooper himself, to the carrier. He's asked for permission to come aboard and has even designated where he'd like to come aboard the Kearsarge. And the divers who've gone aboard also have reported that he is all right. So there seems to be no question about that. His flight was absolutely perfect for 30 hours through space. Not a hitch in the launch or anything else. After we got him off, there was one-day delay, as you know, because of extraordinary difficulties such as a malfunctioning fuel pump in a diesel engine that should have pulled the gantry back from the launching pad, and then some radar difficulty down in Bermuda. But once we got him off yesterday morning, just 4 minutes late, and that's the closest anybody's come to target, there has been no trouble for 30 hours as he spun around the world. He was so unconcerned, so nonchalant, that he took a nap in his second orbit around the Earth. And then last night he got a full 7.5 hours sleep with no problems at all, right on schedule. He awakened right on schedule with no problems either. He didn't have to be awakened by the ground-controlled alarm clock that had been built into the capsule. And by some fantastic... Now we understand that we can go back to the Kearsarge. Let's go to Joe Campbell.
350 degrees. A perfect shot. If this is considered perfect, then nothing could be. The boat is now closing the distance between it and the capsule. I'm talking now of the motor whale boat, which is cutting in towards the ship in relatively calm waters, created by the swing around of the ship and the backing down action. We now have less wind than we had before. And now the cross came within about 10 feet of our face here. 100 yards over to the capsule, which is bobbing gently, very gently. The swells are only running, as I told you a little earlier, about 4 to 6 feet. To recap for you, Gordon sent word to the helicopter pilot that he would like to be brought aboard by the plane on the number 3 elevator, which is now down. The boat steps will cross the line from the number 3 elevator. They're pulling out a cable. A long line is being dragged out towards the capsule. This line is being let out towards the boat heads in the direction now of the capsule. I would assume from that wind behind the ship that we're backing down slightly. But now it's about 50 yards between the boat and the capsule. About 50 yards between the motor whale boat and the capsule. The capsule has drifted out a little bit from the ship. I'd say it's now about 150 yards out. They just removed the antenna from the capsule so that they can hook the hook aboard. We are backing down now, definitely backing down, pulling the ship into position so that the capsule can be hoisted aboard number 3 elevator here on the USS Kearsarge. Let me recap for you while we're waiting for the boat to reach the capsule. A little bit ago, at about near perfect time when they predicted it, it's about a little less than a half hour ago now. Through the clouds, we can see the street open beautifully, and the capsule impacted in the water with astronaut Gordon Cooper just 2 miles off the port bow of the USS Kearsarge. A beautiful, beautiful impact, beautiful recovery operation so far. The motor whale boat now is only a matter of maybe half a dozen yards from the capsule. The divers are all standing around ready to pass the line up with a hook which goes down into a hook on top of the capsule, sort of an inverted U, where it's then hooked and gently dropped towards the ship. The line now has been hauled out. I see signals coming up meaning that everything is A-OK at this point. There goes the bow hook out. Here's the line. The bow hook has just extended the line over to the divers who now have it. And they've hooked it. And now they're going to be pulling it in. That was a good job from Tom Templeton. He's a coxswain from Quebec, Tennessee. He just put the bow hook out, handed the line over to the divers. The divers, Ryan Salant and Bert Swift and Dick Nicholson. They're out there on the flotation collar hooking things on. The helicopters are way out in wide circles now, still close enough to come in if needed, but there's a sense they're not going to be needed now. The line is beginning to be made taut. I can see it come up out of the water as they start to pull the capsule gently towards the USS Kearsarge. Down on elevator number 3. The NASA officials are gathering about with their instruments. The doctors, Dr. Richard Pollard, and Lieutenant Colonel Charles Huff, who's in the United States Air Force. Dr. Pollard, incidentally, holds the captain's commission in the United States Army. He is assigned to NASA. They are down on the number 3 elevator, along with McDonnell engineers and NASA photographers. They're all gathering down. John Graham, the team leader, is standing there with earphones, and he's talking, I assume, with the tape, letting them know that everything is going along splendidly. The line is being gently hauled in. Now the capsule is beginning to sink ever so slightly, as it's being moved towards the USS Kearsarge and the number 3 elevator. Sailors, Marines, all line the starboard side. You still have that slight starboard lift because of the weight of all of these sailors over here. I'm assured that there's no danger whatsoever to the ship. It's just one of those phenomena that develops when everybody runs to the railing on one side of the ship. I doubt seriously if there's a single sailor on the port side of the ship. They're all over here. They line the island. There's not a single place on the island of the carrier anywhere that they aren't perched. On stanchions, on gundown, everywhere. The capsule will be pulled in by hand to keep from tilting the capsule. It is being pulled in by hand. Down in the hangar deck, they have a crew pulling on the line, which goes up into a pulley from the giant crane, which extends out to the capsule. The distance is being closed rapidly. Everything is fine. The captain just looked up from the bridge and gave me a circular sign, and the executive officer, Commander Hawkins, sticking his head out, giving us a victory sign too. We're all happy, as you can well gather. Captain Gene Rankin, of course, has been involved in this pickup before, when we picked up astronaut Wally Schirra. And now Gordon Cooper, sitting out there in the capsule, just a few yards now, maybe 80 to 100 yards off the starboard beam of the USS Kearsarge. The motor wheelboat with its crew is very close to the capsule, just a few feet, actually, maybe as much as 2 or 3 yards off from. Now it's closing, and of course, with a gentle rolling action of the swells, the boat moves in, then it moves out, then it moves in, that sort of thing. We can see very clearly now. They're hauling in the capsule by hand. The line occasionally touching down into the water as the distance is narrowed by degrees. As I told you earlier, there's every effort being made to do this absolutely surely, with no haste. Everybody wants to make sure it's a good job. Now we see other planes, there's skyliners from the ship swinging around here, looking at the scene. It's become slightly overcast, not very much, but the sun's gone behind the clouds. The breeze is in fact kind of cool as we pull in the capsule Phase 7. The diver's holding on to it, sitting on the opposite side of the capsule, like you would in a sailboat, to keep it from tilting, as the line is being gradually tightened by hand to pull it in to the ship. The line has also been put out for tension to steady the capsule as it's being hauled in. That's being held on the opposite side by the boys in the motor whaleboat. It's a delicate job, but slowly. But as I told you earlier, they want to make absolutely certain that no hits develops at this stage of the game. The capsule is tilted ever so slightly in our direction. The guys are sitting on the other side of a flotation gear to make sure that it remains upright. They occasionally tilt even a little more. Attention is being held on the other side to keep it from upsetting. The flotation gear is bending, giving a little bit as it's being hauled take some time because the going is slow. From the rate of speed that you're coming in, it should take at least another 10 minutes to haul in the capsule. But it's being done ever so gently so as not to upset the capsule in the gear. The divers are all sitting on the opposite side, so as you would when you're in a sailboat, when the sail is being pushed over, they're sitting on the opposite side, to which the line has also been attached to the whaleboat to keep the capsule from tilting over. I'm told that they also want no water in the top of the capsule, which is now open. Of course, it's open with the drogue chute and everything else that was in it, the big chute, all on top of the capsule. That's all out now, and the signalman in the boat is sending a word over. The distance is now, about 25 to 30 yards from number 3 elevator. They're bringing it in. I'm going to move over here at another vantage point so I can get a better look at the operation. Right now, the capsule is tilting a little.
Well, we've just heard here at Cape Canaveral that President Kennedy has just phoned Mrs. Gordon Cooper, Trudy Cooper, at her Houston, Texas home with congratulations on the feat of her husband in outer space. Now back to Joe Campbell at the Kearsarge.
There's a motions made down there on the number 3 elevator, backing out commands through a megaphone. I can't hear them from here. We're up high on the island, looking down on top of the scene. The view is unobstructed at this point. Down goes the big hole, like a block of tackle in a garage. We're getting ready to pick up a motor or something, but this one's going down to pick up phase 7. Capsule now is 20 yards from the number 3 elevator. Little whaleboat trailing behind with its tension line out to keep the capsule from upsetting. It's a colorful scene. The sun's out again. The Marines are in their dress sleeves, and the sailors are lining the starboard side all the way aft. The signalman is communicating to the ship by semaphore. That's a hand flag, of course. Now the capsule is just in line. We're going to have to bring it forward a little. The hook is being let down a little more. The capsule swings towards the number 3 elevator. They've been pulling this thing in by hand. The job has taken about 15 minutes so far, just to pull it in by hand. Now the capsule is just about under the hook. One of the divers is reaching for the lead line to the big hook. The giant white hook on the end of a block of tackle arrangement. There, the diver has the hook. He's swinging it over to the top of the capsule. They've hooked on. They've hooked on. Now they're trying to keep the capsule from going back down in the water. The tension is on now. Here it comes up. It's quickly hauling her up. I see people down around the crane with their hands in the air, pointing up, giving the signal to raise the capsule. The water is drained from the bottom of it. That's a now familiar scene as the water drains from the cushioning, which is on the bottom of the capsule to help upon impact. Right now, the capsule is just about even with the number 3 elevator. Being swung in now. I see Captain Gene Rankin down there on the number 3 elevator, along with some NASA officials. He's talking with John Graham, the team leader. I see the crane crew moving around very quickly. They've got out a cushioning place there to set the capsule down in. That shows there'll be no markings whatsoever on the capsule. I understand from the channel engineers and NASA officials, the captain ordered that even small meteorite markings can then be studied if there are no scratches on this beautiful capsule. Here she comes. It's now over the number 3 elevator, being gently let down. It's now about 6 feet from the cushion. Here it comes down slowly. It's now about 4 feet. It's up little sailors as the flotation collar down on deck. And now the capsule is down. It is tucked in a sort of a box with massage mattress is in the middle of it. A ladder is being laid alongside of the capsule. Apparently it's from an unhooked tree. There goes the filtration column being lifted away. Down comes the capsule. The crane crew is holding it gently as it's being lowered to pick up the distance between the bottom of the cushion heat shield and the bottom of the actual bottom of the capsule. They're holding it for a moment, turning it around, I assume so that the hat will be pointing in a given direction. Here we come around again. The beautiful letters, United States, printed on the side. No marking on them. The capsule glistens a little here in the sun. Everybody, of course, is just smiling like the familiar old canary. Or cat, rather, that ate the canary. Down comes the capsule now. The cushioning is closing. It's the cushioning of a type like in some sofas that you sit on where the air is definitely pushed out after you sit down. Gives you a very soft landing. Here comes the ladder up to the top of the capsule. A sailor is going up to unhook the plane hook from the block and tackle. John Graham has just climbed up, rather. John Graham climbed up and got his head down in the top of the capsule. Apparently he's talking to Gordo. Lots of photographers are swimming around taking pictures. Navy photographers are in abundance also. Members of the press are kept back off the elevator at a distance of about 20 or 30 feet. Now comes Dr. Pollard, who is the first to open it. The whaleboat is now going out to the other two divers who have a suit located. They'll be bringing that in. All the divers will be aboard in just a few moments then. Now I'm looking down on number 3 elevator. Flight bulbs are going off everywhere. They're working around the hatch. I assume these are the tunnel engineers, and not the officials. I can't see because they're blocked. But John Graham is now back down from the ladder where he was looking a moment ago. Dr. Pollard is walking over this way, saying a few words to some Navy people. The engineers are working around the hatch. John Graham is directly in front of the hatch. There go more flash bulbs. They're taking pictures of this whole thing. Making sure everything is recorded for history. There comes a strap up slightly. They're getting set to blow the hatch, as I understand it. In just a few seconds, they should be blowing the hatch. They're moving back out of the area of the hatch. So the screws have been removed. Everything is set for. There's John Graham knocking on the side in the series of 3, and out came the hatch. You can probably hear the pop from here. And there go hands inside the capsule. The doctors are coming up because they'll be conducting tests at this point. As I understand it from a few of them, this medical test is very important to them. There goes Dr. Pollard out with some sort of garment. Just removed the helmet. They just removed Gordo's helmet. And that's officials and McDonald engineers are around. Here comes the helmet inboard on the elevator. Dr. Charlie Opp is there along with Dr. Pollard. They're talking to Gordon in the capsule. Recovery team leader John Graham is standing slightly to the side of them, talking through the hatch. Grinning from ear to ear. It appears from this distance. John is quite a grinner. He is a happy sort of fellow. Now all the officials are running out. Here comes the red carpet being rolled out. This is a touch I didn't know they were going to do. They kept this more or less secret from me. The doctors are talking, still leaning over talking, kicking their head up and down, yes, and apparently everything is okay in the capsule. In just a moment we'll probably have some information from NASA officials as to the condition, but Gordo has already said he's in fine shape. It's quite a scene, one you'll never forget if you can see it. I hope you can. The capsule sitting there on the number 3 elevator of the USS Kearsarge for about an hour now. We've been describing the pickup, which has been magnificent. To recap slightly for you, Space 7 impacted about 2 miles off the port bow of the USS Kearsarge, cutting their former record for a flight impact by half, a little better than half, because during the last recovery it was 8.5 miles. This time, 2 miles. And incidentally, Captain Fairchild had predicted that it would be at just that spot. I've got to have a long talk with him. The capsule came down just as he said. A special mode MA9 Space 7 flag will be broken as soon as the astronaut is out of the capsule. I'll assume that's up on the broken up on the island right here in front of my face. That means they're going to hoist it. For those of you who don't know Navy lingo, we're going to hoist a special Space 7 flag right here in front of me. I see a figure below. We'll look down below. Waiting in readiness. We're still getting those medical readings. Dr. Pollard told me that these were very important to the mission, MA9, but they get these readings both before and after we got out of the capsule. To recap that operation for you slightly, Dr. Pollard tells me the idea is to get reclining sets on Gordon's blood pressure, his pulse rate, his heartbeat, all of these things while he's still in the prone position in the contours couch of the capsule Phase 7. And then, as soon as he steps out of the capsule, they take an additional reading, and the readings will be recorded within the capsule itself by means of a special extension cord that Dr. Pollard was showing me the other night. It has identical fittings so that it can hook on to the fittings on Gordo's suit. There's one down on his right thigh and another up on his left arm. These will be to take pressure of his heart, blood pressure, I should say, his heartbeat, his pulse rate, respiration, all of these things. And this is done because during the Syrah flight, it was noted that there was a slight discoloration of Waller's speed because apparently being in a capsule for an extended period of weightlessness will cause the same effect as prolonged bed rest, perhaps as much as 2 to 3 weeks. That means that the blood in the feet does not rise as quickly as it should, and it causes lightheadedness and dizziness. And we're going to make sure that whether or not this is one of the conditions of prolonged weightlessness. So something was just handed to Dr. Up from out of the capsule. John